Now, Linda Mnisi has been following the case in court and joins me now in studio. Linda, it looks like it was all about the apology today, or the comments then put forward by the judge as he made them from Friday onto today.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go back to those comments and how they came about, you know, on Friday we expected that perhaps he would say something about them, given, of course, that there was already reaction to what he had said on Thursday, but he did not. He came this morning saying, before we start, this is what I'd like to say, because surely you must have seen the newspapers and what, you know, has been said. So he's offered his apology today, saying that, you know, it's not in his nature to behave that way. His conduct was improper, particularly for a judge of his caliber. But of course, you know, with the apology done and dusted, it does not take away the issues that he was raising right at the beginning.
Yeah.
You would have heard him after his apology asking Advocate Mshololo about, you know, the issue around her absence, saying, I thought you would have met me in chambers to talk about your absence for nearly 2 weeks. You were not here. And the explanation that was given at the time is that she had an emergency, you know, but obviously the judge expecting that you would come and address me in chambers about why you couldn't come to court, but that has not happened. Even him, you would have heard him saying, maybe I'm just old school, but you know, that's how things were done then. Again, the issue around Advocate Mnisi, which is why we even have an apology in the first instance, was to avoid a situation where, you know, the matter is postponed.
Yeah.
But again, we find that the matter is postponed. Advocate Mnisi is a no-show, asked Sipora Musipili to stand in for him, and there's an application by the state to recall 2 of its witnesses who will testify about photographic evidence, right? And this photographic evidence somehow touches both of Advocate Mnisi's clients. Now, the state has done the response. What is your position on this? The accused say, well, we have further instructions that we'd like to give to our lawyer, Advocate Mnisi, but he's not in court.
He's a no-show. And this is the same advocate who, not so long ago, needed more and more and more time in order to come to grips with the case of the second exactly, that he actually had as well. So does this create a major question mark, and one perhaps understanding the frustration, not agreeing with the utterances of the judge, but understanding the frustration of where it comes from because of the delays that have certainly come through here? Absolutely,
Arabile, and it's understanding the context, right, of where it all came from, around the issues of, you know, there is a family here that is waiting for answers. There is the general public who wants this matter done, you know, who wants justice to be done. But also, this justice must not only be seen to be done, or must not only be done, but also be seen to be done in that the court must sit and these issues must be ventilated. The state will bring evidence, the defense will rebut the evidence. And that's what really is at the center of this case. But now the matter is unable to continue because, like he said on Wednesday, what would I say to the judge president? Would I go to him and say, well, we're not sitting on Monday because I've allowed somebody to go and run a marathon? Which, again, it's brought us back to the same thing. Not to defend the judge or to defend the utterances, but ultimately the issues were about conduct, the issues were about what needs to happen in this matter that has dragged on for such a long time. These issues need to be ventilated. The evidence needs to be tested. It needs to go through a rigorous process such as a court. But we're back at, you know, the same point.
So we don't know what Advocate Charles Mnisi actually thinks of the apology as yet. We'll hopefully know when he does, of course, step into the courtroom. But what are we anticipating from here when it comes to the actual case? How long is this ultimate delay that we're sitting with right now?
So the matter will resume tomorrow. However, you would have heard that the clients of Advocate Mnisi say they want to give him further instructions in relation to this application that the state has now brought. There's another accused person. This is Bongani Ntanzi, who is represented by Sipho Ramosipili, who was in court standing in for Advocate Mnisi. And what he essentially said was that he will use this time, or will be drafting a response to the state's application, right, in terms of where exactly he stands with what the state wants to do. So he'll be going back to draft a response and file it, and then tomorrow we'll know exactly what the position perhaps of, Bongani Ntanzi, but also remember the position of Muzisibia, who's accused number one in this particular matter, because the state has already made the application. We're now awaiting for a response, and Advocate Mnisi is today, like he indicated in his letter, possibly making his way back from, Durban or KwaZulu-Natal, and we'll only know once he's back in court.
Is the expectation that he will be back in court tomorrow?
Well, that's the expectation, because in his letter he said he would only be wanted to be excused only on Monday.
Yeah.
Right. So the expectation is that because he was not there, and it's also quite important to remember that he was not given the permission to.
Exactly. So he's also in defiance of the court at this point. So he's also in contempt at this point, is he not?
Well, there was no order specifically to say you must come, but the court said it would not respond to his request. He would not respond to his request because, again, he can't go to the judge president and say, we're not sitting because somebody wants
100%.
to go and run a marathon. So the court did not give an explicit view or permission for him not to come to court. But obviously those comments have now brought us to this point. And it's also quite important, Arabile, to mention that this is not the first time that the judge has had to apologize for similar utterances. Last year, you'd recall, around March last year, the late Thulani Mngomezulu, who was representing accused number one, did not show up in court and did not provide an explanation. And the remarks that were made at the time was, is this how black lawyers conduct themselves? And he received backlash at that particular time and had to apologize. So it's coming back again that he's now again had to apologize for those remarks.
It's the racial sensitivities, of course, that are more profound perhaps in this case, as opposed to perhaps dealing with the actual issues themselves. Linda, thank you so much for continuing, of course, to follow this one for us. Tomorrow is another interesting day, and we certainly will be on top of the story then for us as well. That being Linda Mnisi, they're following the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial there as it continues in earnest.